If your child is struggling socially, emotionally, behaviorally, everyone might be rushing you to get them evaluated. But before you go down that diagnostic path, I want to share with you 10 things that I would do before I rush to get a diagnosis. Not so that you can avoid the truth. Some things do need to be diagnosed, and earlier is sometimes better, but so that we can rule out all of the normal childhood development challenges that there might be and make sure that we are not pathologizing something that is totally normal, maybe typical, and certainly treatable at home. Welcome back to Hi Fam. I'm Avital. I'm the mother of 5, and I'm on a mission to help you to create a family life that you love. Now, make sure you stick with me till the end because I have a bonus tip for you at the end that might be the most important part of all the things I would do before seeking a diagnosis. And if I did seek a diagnosis, I would really want to hear this bonus tip. So make sure you stick around. Now, before we get into it, make sure to slam on that subscribe button. It really helps my channel and supports me. Click the like button, click the notification bell, and make sure to leave me your comment below. Have you thought about seeking a diagnosis for your child? Have you received one? Has it been helpful or not? Has it been liberating or was labeling disabling in this case? What do you feel about diagnostic labels and paths? I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Many of us parents get really concerned when we see certain behavioral patterns, certain social behaviors, or certain emotional realities that our kids are struggling with. And our first thought in today's day and age is to rush to get them labeled, to get a diagnosis, and perhaps to go down a therapeutic treatment path or even a medicalized treatment path. Now, disclaimer. I am not against diagnosis or medical treatment for certain conditions that ail our children. I think they can be life-saving and certainly life-changing in many situations. But I am noticing, and research does back me up on this, a trend to over-diagnose and to over-pathologize things that were once seen within the norm of childhood development and of the range of temperaments that children come into this world with. So before I would rush to get a diagnosis, here are the things that I have done and, taken on and made sure that I've got them locked down with my own children before I think about going down a pathologizing path. Number 1 is to prioritize sleep. So often, children in our culture might seem like they have behavioral problems, social problems, emotional dysregulation, but really it's just exhaustion. Really, they're just not getting enough sleep. The truth is that kids today are really not getting the amount of time and the quality of sleep that they need in order to develop properly. So before you rush to get a diagnosis, see what happens if you bump bedtime up an hour or 2. Give your child way more time to wind down and to sleep long hours in a dark, cool room. Nix any screens about 2 hours before bedtime and make sure that their quality of sleep is being increased. Make sure they're not having sugar just before bed or even any food at all about an hour before sleep at least. And make sure that they are getting the magnesium that they need, the completely pitch black dark room that they need, maybe the sleep sounds that might help them or muffling noises on the outside and really nixing any disturbances. If you can, you might even experiment with not waking them up in the morning and making sure that they can sleep the full range of their healthy, natural sleep cycle. When kids are well rested, they grow better. Their physical body is healthier. It's all stuff that you already know. But so often we might completely skip this step and rush to get a label slapped on the behavior rather than noticing that they're actually just tired. Number 2 is to clean up their nutrition. And I know how hard this is in today's day and age. But the harsh truth is that sugar crashes, food dyes, skipping protein in a diet, all of these can actually mimic the symptoms of ADHD, anxiety, or even mood disorders. So whilst your child might have a disorder, they might also just not have the nutrition that they need in order to behave and grow the best that they can. And a much more optimized way to help them to re-regulate themselves, behave better, focus better, sleep better, grow better, treat you and their surroundings better is to give them a better diet. Now, I know this is very involved. It takes a lot from us parents, but remember, you're the one paying the bills. You're the one putting food on the table. And remember Ellen Satter's fantastic division of responsibilities. She says that you are responsible for what they eat, when they eat it, and where they eat it. And they can choose how much and whether or not they want to eat. So you are responsible for what foods are in your pantry, what foods are in their lunchbox, what foods are on the dinner table. And if you want to help your child, rather than rushing to therapy, I would first add in healthy fats and proteins to breakfast, which is typically really missing in the the standard American diet, for example. I would rush to make sure they're properly hydrated and drinking enough water. I would rush to go for whole, real foods rather than processed foods. That in and of itself can completely transform a child. The third thing that I would do before I would seek evaluation is make sure that my child is getting daily movement. Kids today are sadly more sedentary than ever before, but kids are built to move. They need to develop their fine and gross motor skills, their balance, their core, their vestibular system, their muscle tone, their coordination. And the truth is that behavior issues often reduce dramatically by increasing movement. And you know this for yourself. Your mood, your ability to make good decisions, your sleep at night, the quality of your relationships, everything in our adult life improves when we work out. When we break a sweat, when we move our body, we just feel that runner's high or that elevation in our mood because everything that's released when we work out makes us sharper, happier, better behaved, and more in control. So what a label or a pill might not be able to offer your child, getting outside, biking, swimming, roughhousing, running around the house might. Inside my course, Reclaim Play, I teach you all about the movement zone. And this is so crucial for very young children from the age of, several months all the way through to teenagehood. And it's especially important if you live in a climate where children can't spend long hours outside year round. Having a movement zone inside your house is what would allow your child to really work out, to challenge their bodies, to strain themselves, to break a sweat every single day, and to work off those bad moods or that lack of focus. So if you haven't grabbed that course yet, make sure to go to reclaimplay.com/course, grab the course, and within 3 weeks, we will get your child playing independently for hours a day. Bonus point here is that independent play absolutely helps with childhood behavior, social and emotional skills, mood management, regulation, all of the good things that we want for our child, not to mention physical development, academic growth, all of the good things for their future are all embedded into independent play. It's Mother Nature's way of growing children that are healthy and strong and happy and well-rounded. So if your child isn't playing for upwards of 3 hours a day independently without your involvement or direction, then make sure to grab the course because that could be life-changing in and of itself. Let's get back to our list. Number 4 is nature exposure. Green time trumps screen time. Did you know that even 50 to 30 minutes outside can calm the nervous system and improve focus? Not to mention that nature is a mood elevator. People are happier and calmer and feel better connected when they're outdoors. But sadly, green time has been replaced with screen time in today's day and age. Reducing your child's screen usage and getting them outdoors more, hiking, biking, just throwing pebbles into the river, whatever it might be that is in nature, that is immersive, is going to help them with their mood. And if you live in an urban environment, that's still true for just going to your local playground and being surrounded by some trees. Number 5, the one none of us were waiting for, is to limit screen time. I just said, let's replace it with movement, with outdoor time. But the truth is that even if you didn't do those things, you would still want to reduce the amount of screen time that your child is getting and replace it with independent play. You wouldn't be giving your child a double shot of espresso and expecting them to sit still all day. And yet, screen time gives them massive dopamine hits. It's no wonder children today are having trouble with their focus. Flooding their system like this, getting them used to instant gratification and to passive consumption, means that they're going to have that zombified behavioral meltdowns after the screen is switched off. Because real life is just so different. It's 3-dimensional. You have to actually take other people into consideration. You have to actually make things work in the real world, not just in a virtual landscape. And that causes a lot of frustration and a lot of behavioral problems that could be diagnosed, and maybe they should be, but could also be addressed by limiting the amount of screen time and seeing if that is enough to improve it. So how about starting by cutting down 50% of screen time for a few weeks and observing what changes happen in behavior? Now, I will just caution that sometimes cutting down a little bit is harder than going cold turkey. Sometimes abstinence is actually easier than moderation. And you can watch my other videos all about screen times and reducing screen times and my rules about screen time and my reactions to unlimited screen time to see more about that. But suffice to say, before I would ever rush my kid to be evaluated, I would cut down significantly if they were using a screen every single day, for example. Number 6 is to just understand childhood development a little bit better. Not every difficult behavior is a disordered behavior. Not every act of defiance is oppositional defiance disorder. Not every meltdown is a mood disorder. The truth is that kids do things like lying, leaving other people out, getting really insulted, melting down, throwing things, and testing limits. It's kind of part of the job description of being a kid. So before you rush to get the label, you've got to check your expectations. Are these behaviors well within the norm of typical childhood development? Just because they're challenging to you doesn't mean that they are abnormal. Raising kids is inherently challenging. They go through phases of dumping things. They go through phases of screaming. They go through phases of refusing things or of testing your limits. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. In fact, it means there's something right with them. That's how kids develop and grow. So remember when you're raising children that you're not raising little soldiers or baby dolls or something perfect that can hit all the marks exactly as you want them to, but rather there's something a little bit messy and chaotic and going through phases about raising kids, and that is perfectly normal and to be expected. The 7th thing that I would do before I rush to get my kids' diagnosis would be to try home-based treatments first. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the people who are closest to me are childhood psychologists, CBT therapists, play therapists. I have speech therapists and occupational therapists in my immediate family, and I value and admire their work. There is absolutely a place for professional intervention, and sometimes earlier is better. However, if you look at the type of treatment your child would get were they to receive the label, you might want to ask yourself, is this something I could give them at home? Let me give you a minor example in my own life. If I notice that my children are getting stuck with bad mindsets like black and white thinking or catastrophizing or personalizing, I know that I could go to a CBT childhood specialist. They would probably help them learn to question those thoughts, to reframe, and to look at things in a more empowering fashion. But the truth is that I can also help them do that myself. There are CBT workbooks that I buy, and I will link to them below. And I can sit as the parent with the child and do the same kind of activities without the help or without the kind of middleman of a professional. Now, there are pros to going to professionals, right? Sometimes you need their help. But sometimes, especially for minor or passing problems, it's the type of thing that we could actually cater to in our own home. I'll mention Reclaim Play again, because inside my Reclaim Play course, I teach you how to set up different play zones and how to encourage different types of play. Imaginative play, for example, is highly therapeutic for kids. If they're processing something difficult they've been through, if they're having challenges with their social skills in school or being rejected or being teased, if they have nightmares at night, these are all the types of things that parents might rush to get a diagnosis for or to get intervention from a professional. But play itself could be highly therapeutic even without a play therapist guiding and supervising. So therapies like sensory play, CBT tools, structured routines, even physio or mindset coaching are actually things that you as the parent can do. You don't need to rely on outside help. Sometimes that outside help isn't available, or it's too expensive, or there are scheduling conflicts and they just make it too out of reach. And sometimes introducing a third actually infringes upon that sacred connection that you have with your child. Yes, therapy can be beneficial, but also sometimes therapy can be harmful. Just read Abigail Schreier's book, Bad Therapy, to discover why. And the truth is that the parent-child relationship can sometimes be a very fertile, positive ground for making changes and for helping children to develop and grow in the right direction. The truth is that no one cares about your child like you do, and no one knows them like you do. And no amount of expertise or PhDs can replace the bond and the connection and the intimacy that you have with your child. Now, granted, sometimes you need a third party who has more objectivity and more professionalism, but sometimes it's the parent child bond that is the exact place to make these changes and to move forward. Now, I know that people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and many, many years and so much energy and time becoming experts in their field. And I don't want to dismiss that for 1 minute. But I do want to say that some of those skills and ideas are not rocket science and you can implement them in your home. Sometimes the treatment is kind of obvious and you don't need the expert to tell it to you. And you don't need the headache of being on a wait list or the hassle of insurance battles to get the treatment that your child needs. You could do it now. With a little bit of research, trusting your instinct, and some creativity, you can find a way to offer them the physio, the CBT, the coaching, the sensory play, the design solutions that they need inside your home. And reclaiming play would be a really good place to start. Now, if none of that was enough and I felt like I still need to see a diagnostician, I would go and see them without my child first. I would want to get their take. I would want to ask questions. I would want to share my concerns about putting my child through hours of testing and ask them if it's absolutely necessary. I would want to be able to probe and see if they have a bias or an agenda. I would want to talk to other clients who had gone through this path before them and see if those testimonials and results really check out. When your child is not there, you can feel more free to speak more clearly about what you think the symptoms are, about what the challenges might be, about what your concerns are about the therapy or the diagnosis or the practitioner themselves. So you can become a lot smarter and a lot more confident in the path forward and feel more comfortable with this particular practitioner before bringing your child into that situation. Then, if you decide to move forward with it and you bring your child there, you will feel a familiarity that will also set your child at ease. Number 9, I would avoid rabbit holes. I know you're online right now, and this is so hard to do. But the truth is that neither Reddit nor TikTok will give you clinical clarity. They'll just give you panic. So I would suggest getting off the forums. Now, one exception to this rule might be researching through AI, where you can actually give AI your standards and your expectations, that you want evidence-based material, that you want things that are based on data and research, or maybe that you want real-life examples. I guess the point is just to be careful when you're researching online that you don't get captivated or captured or locked into some echo chamber, and you don't get swayed by people who are activists in this particular group. I want you to keep politics out of it. I want you to make sure that you are just thinking, what is in my child's best interest? And that is it. You're not making a statement about policy or about other people's lives. You don't have to worry about being perceived as judgmental or holier than thou or preachy. You just need to do what's right for your child. And if diagnosis is it, then you'll go forward. And if it's not, then you won't. And that's okay. And I think sometimes the online forums really cloud that judgment and really overshadow our intuition. And finally, number 10, you need to know what diagnosis will actually do for you and for your child. Some diagnostic labels actually change a child's trajectory. They offer resources, they unlock therapies, they help with clarity and understanding and empathy and compassion for why the child behaves the way they do or what their needs might be. Some of them actually change a child's school plan, change their educational trajectory, or change their treatment, and therefore they're worth pursuing because you need all of those things. But some diagnostic labels are just a label. They just add this kind of excuse to hide behind, or a label that becomes actually disabling, that keeps a child small and makes them feel like something's wrong with them. Some diagnostic labels are just not helpful for your particular child to receive. So even if I did evaluate my child, and even if they did meet the criteria for the label, and even if they then got the diagnosis, would it change their life for the better or not? Would it help them? Would it give them something that's actually going to support them to overcome these challenges? Or is it just a label I'm putting on my kid? Basically, before you get the diagnosis, you have to understand the ramifications of that diagnosis. Because once it's written down, it follows them forever. Now, that might be fine and useful and good. That might be liberating for them, or helpful or useful or just neutral. But it might be something that no one ever needed to pursue, and it was just a waste of your energy, your time, your dollars, and worse, damaging for your child's future prospects without any real payoff. So those are the 10 things that I would do before pursuing a diagnosis. But here's one important bonus tip for you. If I was to pursue a diagnosis for my child, I would spend time crafting the narrative. How you share the diagnosis, how you frame it up, how you position it, what you call it is going to shape the way your child sees themselves and sees this part of themselves. Whether you put it in an empowering way, whether you put it as something that's going to hold them back in their lives, whether you share it at all, whether you share it publicly and with their friends and with their teachers, is all a question that's worth lingering on. It's worth asking yourself, does this serve my child's best interest or not? How do I want them to look at this? And the bonus tip here is, of course, that we want them to look at it as just another part of themselves, but certainly not the most interesting thing about them. Just like they have a certain color eye or they were born in a particular country, they have this diagnostic label, but it doesn't define them. It won't hold them back. It won't push them forward. It can't be an excuse for them to play it small. And it also isn't some badge of honor. It's simply a thing that we contend with, just like having a particular blood type, right? And it does have ramifications, and there are things that your child might need to do, certain treatment plans or, vitamins, whatever it is they might need to do as a result, but it's not going to be a defining factor or a key part of their identity. If you position this as too important, then it becomes something that really shapes your child's sense of self. And if you position it as completely not important, then you might miss out on the treatments and the therapies and the empathy and the accommodations that your child actually does need. So we've got to kind of position it, I think, in a balanced, neutral way. This is just another thing, part of our lives, just part of who we are, but not something that we need to make into a massive challenge or either a massive strength. I know that might surprise you because some people think, no, it should be a source of great pride or a source of identity, or you should join groups with that identity. And maybe you'll get support and camaraderie and help from other people with a similar diagnosis. But if it was my child, I wouldn't want them to make their whole identity about their diagnostic label. I would just say, yeah, this is one part of you, and we contend with it in this way, and these are the ramifications, and it's awesome, and we'll make the best of it, and we'll do what we can with it, and it can be a big challenge, and it can also be a superpower, and we're going to always try and work hard and overcome and all of those good things. But I also wouldn't want to make it something, a source of shame or a source to be embarrassed by, or something that they feel uncomfortable sharing. So that's why I say I think neutrality is the best narrative, with a hint, with a touch towards the empowering, the positive, right? This is something that we can make the most of. There are silver linings in this. And this is something that you don't need to be at all ashamed of. It's just a fact of life. It's just, there it is. It's part of who you are. So remember, diagnosis isn't bad. Sometimes it's essential, but I do think it should never be your first step. Start with all the things we mentioned here that are in your control, from nutrition to environment to sleep to play. Offer the support first to see if that helps and makes a change. And remember that children are always going through phases and changing and evolving every single day. So you can label it a little bit later. Now, I know there are some exceptions to that rule where early intervention is really important, but as a general rule, try to exhaust the more natural, relationship-based, home-based, design-based, nutrition-based, health-based options first. So if this resonated, subscribe and leave me a comment below. What is one thing that you're going to try before seeking a diagnosis? Do you think that we overdiagnose and overpathologize childhood today? Or do you think that diagnosis and therapeutics is a wonderful thing and we should have more of it? And if you want more grounded, guilt-free parenting advice, then stick around because you are in the right place. Keep on living that high fam life, and I'll see you in the next one.